1401 Mission, or now Olume, was a project that was previously entitled through the planning department. This project was bought out by new owners that essentially wanted to revamp the entire project. So not just from a programmatic standpoint, but from a design one as well. One of the challenges, and the biggest challenge in this project that we sought to take on, was working for our clients as developers and trying to produce layouts that have units that stack, for example. I mean, there's a lot of value and economy that comes with, say, stacking units. That's from a plan standpoint, that oftentimes when it's translated also to the exterior of the building, the ability to have some type of interest or undulating or breaks or changes in that facade, more oftentimes that goes in a vertical direction. And certainly in our proposal for the exterior design, we wanted to take on the challenge of this idea of efficiency being produced in a vertical manner and try to produce some kind of formal breaks and aesthetic breaks that happens horizontally too. So putting those two elements together of vertical and horizontal, we produced an aesthetic of a larger or broken up cube design. There were nominal dimensions that we could use as far as either pulling facades back or surfaces back and pushing some surfaces forward. So, example, in the glazing system, we had increments of 4 inches or 8 inches that we can set the glass back from the exterior metal skin. And then the metal skin itself, we gave ourselves a criteria of movements of 8 inches or so on, either forward or back. And those two elements combined, or those two strategies, allowed for us to push and pull on the facade, the cube facade, to allow for a break, if you will, in how the building might be perceived. So ACM was a material that was chosen in partnership with the contractors on the project, Bill Group, and the subs as well. And the metal panel and ACM in particular was critical, because as we're describing that the movements of the buildings are relatively limited to 4 inches, 8 inches or so on, that if small movements are intended to describe bigger massing changes to give an impression of a dynamic facade, we certainly want those to be the most legible and read the strongest. So that what I mean by that is that in the construction of that facade and how the metal panel is perceived, we cannot absolutely see any of the substructure that supports it come through. These panels have to be rigid, they have to be flat, they have to simply be clean, and in a way be so clean that they're become immaterial, so that they're part of the design proposal. And ACM certainly does that. The colors of the project were chosen to simulate one of the most recognizable colors that describes San Francisco and San Francisco Bay Area. So in the sense of the identity of Golden Gate Bridge as a red, an iconic bridge, to the sports logos of 49ers and so on. Red being a really bright color, we wanted to balance that redness and that brightness, maybe that saturation, with a little bit more of the earth tones, so that it would fit better in context with the surrounding buildings. Primary material that we had first specified when we designed the project, we had considered that the undulating form would be described by a unitized curtain wall system. So when we, in coordination and in consultation with the contractors and thinking of other ways that we can build this facade and going to a stick-built system, the challenge then that came from that, so that transition of a unitized curtain wall system, is that in that curtain wall system, all the pieces, all the parts, they're all inherently homogeneous. It's the same kit of parts. When we were looking at ACM and metal panels in general, we were not skeptical, but certainly we wanted to see if all the considerations were taken into making sure that this material, as it applies, as it's installed, that there was a comprehensive look at how the edges were formed, how the edges turn, how those edges would die into perpendicular surfaces, and so on. So this vocabulary of or matrix of pieces that would come together, we were initially concerned. Now, through the design process and also through the shop drawing process and seeing the documentation that we were able to get from both ACM and also the subs and so on, gave us a lot of confidence. I mean, those were very comprehensive drawings that described how this essential kit of parts would be put together. And in the photos that we're able to release afterwards, it's obvious when it was installed, we were extremely happy. There's a lot of attention to detail that was placed in this, including joint lines that normally that may or may not be exposed. In this case, we didn't have sealed joint lines, so the backings of those joints too are potential exposures for unfinished surfaces. And in this case, everywhere the eye can see, there's nothing left unaddressed. And so we're extremely happy with the results. The design, I believe, is pretty well recognized. You know, I've had a lot of opportunities to travel back and forth to San Francisco, our office based here in Los Angeles. And, you know, each time that I travel up there, quite a few of those occasions I've had to take car service, whether it be Uber, but to get a lift to that project. And more often than not, all the drivers recognize that project. They'll describe it by our design, by the cube, by the color, the colors. So it's really heartening to see, you know, to go into a city and not the address that comes across as prominent, but the aesthetic of the building comes across as prominent. So that makes us certainly feel that we've been able to produce a successful project.